So I'm Moinat. I'm a data engineer at the Hive, where I worked on many OAuth conversion projects in the past years. Recently, I also decided I wanted to dive more into Odyssey, actually, and I started this year as a researcher at the Erasmus Medical Center in the Health Data Science group, also known actually as the Department of Titan winners. I did a quick count, and the current tally is at 6, plus a Titan for the whole department. And I'm very happy and honored to be also a Titan winner. So to throw all modesty out of the window, I think I've done something remarkable last year. But actually, it's something that might be remarkable elsewhere, but not in Odyssey. Because I've set up a collaboration, pre-competitive collaboration between 2 commercial companies doing a similar task, namely mapping the UK biobank data to OMOP. And we learned that multiple teams were interested in this, so reached out, started working in this working group. Granted, we didn't share any mappings, didn't share any code or actual results, but we did learn from each other and made sure we followed the same conventions. So we applied the same data standards. For that, I really want to thank the members of the UK Biobank Working Group, in particular Oleg, Alexander, and Alexandra from the Odysseus team. However, I think another thing I enjoyed very much in the last year, and what I started to enjoy even more and more, is talking about the OMOP data standards, so teaching. And I feel lucky that on numerous occasions I've been able to represent the Odyssey community on that part. Not only in Eden, where I've been teaching many people about the OMOP standards, and especially to people outside of Odyssey, and comparing OMOP with other data standards, like FHIR, OpenEHR, Transmart. And I've always had to smile a bit when I see myself teaching on the Eden Academy page. Although I haven't contributed to the Academy content itself yet. But I'm currently working on an Usagi course, which hopefully will be added soon to the Academy. To conclude, I was looking for a nice methodology reference in through Odyssey style. I found something about the story, about standing on the shoulders of giants. I thought it was a bit too cliche, and actually I had to fall back to a actually way nicer analogy from the Odyssey artwork itself. And it's Odyssey as a community, as a group of superheroes. And currently I'm a very happy sidekick, and maybe this Titan Award is the first step to grow into a hero as well. Maybe. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Maxim, and congratulations. That's a great artwork, and I think there are probably some people out here who already consider you a superhero. So, terrific job, and congratulations again. Okay, let's move to Yong Chen.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Oh, I have to restart Microsoft team and rejoin because there's some security.
Okay, we'll get back. I'll pay attention to see when you get back on.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. Let's jump ahead to Adam Black.
Okay, thanks, Craig. Yeah, I'm Adam Black. I'm a data scientist at Odysseus. I'm incredibly honored to receive the Titan Award for software development this year. I'm also a little surprised too, because I didn't develop any new fancy software package or implement a new method. What I did do this year was try to participate as much as I could in the community activities around software development, the hackathons and the Hades work group. I have a few slides to share about the work that we did. Let's see. And my journey understanding Odyssey software. So I think this slide really is, if I can pinpoint the moment in which Odyssey really clicked for me, it was seeing this slide a few years ago in a tutorial. And we've got these different analytical methods, and we want to plug them into different databases. And the current one study, one script approach, it has some issues with it, with scalability, transparency. And so Odyssey is really thinking about how do we scale up the process of generating evidence from observational data. And we do that by standardizing the data and standardizing the tools so that the tools can kind of plug into the data. Analytics can be remote and also behind a firewall, which is a really key aspect of the software. But sort of my understanding has grown in terms of thinking about the CDM really as an interface to observational health data. And this interface has some really nice things about it. It has a machine-readable specification and human-readable documentation. So these are two of the things that we worked on in the Common Data Model hackathon that we did this year, building out this R package and building out the documentation for the CDM. And we also have automated testing in the form of data quality dashboard, which can check to make sure that CDM follows the CDM specification. As I've learned about Odyssey software, so we've got a tool like Atlas that plugs into the data, right? And that's the whole story. Actually, no, there's a lot of interconnected components. So there's Web API in between, and there's other tools that plug into Web API and use those. And really, what we've got is more of like, instead of just one tool that plugs into data, it's really a whole set of tools that are plugging into each other and connecting to each other. And they're connecting through interfaces. So these this sort of structure of Odyssey software is really the norm. It's not the exception. And so in Hades, we have a lot of these interfaces that are plug in between packages. And in the Hades work group, we work on these interfaces, and each of them has a machine-readable implementation, clear human-readable documentation, and now automated testing. So one of the things that we did this year was work on building out the automated testing in the unit testathon. So one question that I think about a lot, and it's just an open-ended question for the Odyssey software community, is what makes a good interface, since we have so many of them. Hades kind of sits, if we zoom out a little bit, Hades kind of sits in this middle place in the whole Odyssey software stack used to generate evidence from our data. And so something we've been talking about is what are these interface points between Atlas and between the network execution. And if we have good interfaces and stable interfaces, then we can make changes within the software that don't affect the whole tool stack. And one of the things that I think Odyssey does really well and is very unique, and maybe if you've been in Odyssey for a long time you take for granted, is this interface between the researcher or the domain expert and the software. So earlier this year we did this Odyssey reproducibility challenge, and really what makes this challenge even possible to do is that cohort definitions in Odyssey are both human and machine readable. So we could easily see the differences between cohort definitions when we were doing this challenge. And in the one study, one script world that most of the world is still kind of in, it would be much, much harder to actually do this reproducibility challenge. So thank you for the award, and I'm really excited about next year. And if anyone else is interested in contributing to Odyssey software, please join the Hades work group, and love to work with you.
Great. Thank you, Adam. Congratulations on your award. We are giving Adam next week off. He does not have to present at next week's call. That's asking too much. That would be 3 in a row. Yong, I saw you come back. Are you good to go? Take that as a yes.
We don't hear you, Yong.
Yeah.
We see your slides.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, wonderful. I prepared a few slides, and first of all, I really want to thank the Odyssey community, because I joined the Odyssey community since 2013, and previously I was working on meta-analysis, methodology for meta-analysis, and Odyssey gave me a completely new paradigm-shifting way of thinking about how to integrate evidence across different databases. And since then, I have been thinking about data integration and how to develop software that are useful for Odyssey community. And I'm very grateful for this recognition, and I look forward to continue working with folks at Odyssey community. And I want to briefly just introduce the rationale for this software, which we call the PDA. And I'm going to talk about the motivation and what programs are currently out there. So as I said, I joined Odyssey since 2013. This has been a wonderful community for motivating new research topics. So we all know the advantage of multi-center study, because it not only help with the sample size, but also can help with the generalizability of the research findings. And we know that sharing data, patient level data, is challenging. So I'm going to skip those details. But when we did a literature review a few years ago, we found that currently people have been considering this distributed algorithm, which are largely developed by UC San Diego group, such as this GLO or WebDisco. Basically, they are using these iterative algorithms to exchange aggregated data. So what they are asking the institute to do is to open an API portal so that they can exchange this aggregated data through this firewall and iteratively. But obviously, in Odyssey setting, actually this is not particularly appealing because, we have to, this involves multiple rounds of communication. It's just not very efficient. So what I find is that in Odyssey, people have been using essentially this divide and conquer approach. And in IP literature, people just call it meta-analysis. You ask a different sites to fit the same data, a same model, and then send the results back to the coordinator. And so this actually motivated us to think more about what we can do better, because I work on meta-analysis for over 10 years. I know meta-analysis can be not sufficiently good in situations such as rare disease and or more complicated or more complex models. So the key idea is to develop a set of approach using a unique data structure. Let me just talk about this. So this is actually the key inspiration. I think this applied to Odyssey, but also many other distributed research consortium, which is that when you have a research, a lead researcher in a collaboration, usually this lead researcher actually has access to the patient level data at the institute that he or she belongs to. Like when I initiate the project, I do have access to PEN EHR data, but for other collaborators, they are willing to collaborate, like Columbia, Stanford, they are willing to collaborate, but they cannot share patient level data. So the goal is that how can we use the patient level data at PEN and the aggregated data at other collaborators' sites, so that we can build a better method than meta-analysis to conduct the analysis. So this is the fundamental key inspiration and key observation that leads to a set of algorithms we developed later on. So one algorithm was, one of the first algorithm we developed was this distributed algorithm for fitting logistic regression model. So this is different from a previous distributed learning algorithm in the sense that it only requires one iteration. So it basically, you fit a model, train your local logistic regression model, and then you send the initial value to all the collaborators. The only thing you ask from them is to send you back some aggregated data, and we only ask them once, and then finally you construct your procedure, train your model locally. So it turns out that this procedure performs as good as the pooled analysis and largely outperforms the meta-analysis in many scenarios. So beyond that, we also work out the algorithm for time-to-event analysis and a lot more. So this is the second paper we published along this line for distributed Cox model, and we actually developed a set of algorithm. I'm going to just show you this website we built because we know it's very important to do the dissemination. So it turns out that we developed a set of algorithms, not only for logistic regression, Cox model, Poisson regression, and hurdle model, and we are also developing algorithms for linear mixed effect model, generalized linear mixed effect model. And we have a R package called the PDA, and we are actively updating these materials. And the final comment is that we also developed a nice 2-minute animation, which I don't have time to play, but feel free to visit this website called pdamethods.org. So regarding the next phase, what I'm trying to pursue is trying to integrate our algorithm with the current existing packages at Odyssey, in particular those cohort method packages, so that this can, our algorithm can seamlessly integrate with the current operation pipeline. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Great, Yong. Thank you so much. If you could share that URL on the chat, that would be good. I think somebody just did. But that was terrific. Yeah, that URL mentioned is on the chat now. So congratulations. Thank you for the amazing work. And we will turn it now to Asieh.
Thanks, Greg. Hi, everyone. Asieh Golozar. So before I start, I have to give you a disclaimer. I'm extremely bad at talking about myself, so you have to just bear with me. But I've been honored with the Tyson Award for the clinical application, and I have to say, ever since, I've been elated and generally euphoric. So I decided to talk a little bit about my journey, how I joined Odyssey, and then talk a little bit about what I've been up to, what I did last year, and what I'm planning to do this year. Trained as a physician in Iran and practiced for a couple of years. During that time, I got engaged in sort of like a collaborative effort looking into the epidemiology of upper gastrointestinal cancer. Very fascinating, and that was the time I started getting more engaged into the introduced to the epi world and the value of population health research. And that was the time I started formal training in epidemiology and biostatistics. And ever since, from then, I've been an epidemiologist, working in different aspects in academia and government, more looking at the etiology and prevention side of the things. At some point along this line, I decided to move to the pharmaceutical industry with generally the understanding that there was part of me that was missing the clinical, going back to the patients and seeing the value of actually doing robust observational research in bringing value to the patient care. This is actually what you need to investigate the effectiveness and safety of the drugs and provide value to the patients. That was pretty much around the time of my exposure to Odyssey. March 2017 was the first time I made my first concept set on diabetes at midnight. And but I have to say, it took me a while to get into the community. It was I started reading a lot. Maybe I was a little bit shy back in the day, and tried to learn about a lot of the great methodological work that has been done. What was very fascinating and still has been fascinating is the open science and open community, the values of that the community brings, and the openness, the multidisciplinary approach. So 2018, I got pretty much formally engaged in the oncology working group, and that was through crashing one of the oncology working group sessions in the Symposium in Bethesda, where I sat as the end user of the products that was being discussed. Absolutely amazing when you see every single person is so engaged and trying to tackle the problems and coming from different disciplines. They talk and they argue and they actually get it done. So we did that, and so I got more engaged and I tried to bring my epi perspective, trying to just be a part of that great community that I have to say, everything that I've achieved so far, I owe it to the oncology working group specifically. All the support and their openness for bear with me and help me become what I've become, which I have to say I've changed quite a lot when I look back since 2018. So we did the first proof of concept for bladder cancer, showing that the oncology extension works. That was something that I was very happily involved in and led that effort. And as a continuation of that, last year we had a great collaboration with IMI and the IMI Pioneer on prostate cancer, which I led the phenotyping effort and creation of a lot of the cohorts, have a lot of like heavily like engaged discussions with the clinicians, like in terms of the methodology, how we have to do it, and like framing the study questions and moving it forward. Like we've shown some of the results in the symposium, and this is like an effort that's still continuing, producing like more evidence throughout the like even this year and hopefully the next year. So as I said, the majority of my work is in oncology. I try to incorporate a lot of the work that we do in different aspects, from development, vocabulary, just bring like a little bit of a perspective from the clinical background and epi, and what we use when we want to do what we need as researchers when we're thinking about like the model and like how we want to implement it. Goal for next year is to continue that. We have a bunch of network studies that are happening. I want to use this opportunity to invite you all to come and join us. And I think what's very important for me is the ability of the community and the focus on generating reproducible evidence. That's the other part. Like I would spend a lot of my time this year to join the reproducibility effort at Northeastern and to help with this effort. And yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Great, Asieh. You did a great job there. So that was, I'm sure you took a deep breath after you're done. But hope everybody, hope all of the people who are our Titan Award winners are reading the chat, because there's really some great messages going across on that, and it's nice to read and remember how other people in the community feel about the work that you've done. On that, I'm going to turn it over to Erica, our winner for community collaboration.
Yes. Hi guys, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, I want to see your faces. Hold on. Okay. So I am this year's Community Collaboration Titan Award winner. And just in case you guys don't know, this award is specifically to recognize individuals for their collaborative spirit in helping fellow community members reach their goals. And because I'm embarrassed to talk about myself, I kind of decided to disperse some of that energy by showing you my baby picture. In case you were doing the baby pictures during the Odyssey Symposium, this was me. I'm literally the exact same human being. So let me talk a little bit about why I think I got this award. Let me see. Okay, and I think I got this award for my role in the Eden community over the past year. And for those of you who don't know, Eden is a European network that was launched to address current challenges in generating evidence from real-world data across Europe. And really, the backbone to help facilitate Eden to reach that goal is to standardize European data sets to the OMOP Common Data Model. And the way they facilitate this is they usually have open calls for data where data partners can apply and get grants, and that funding can then support either resources or servers or whatever they need to get to the end goal of having a CDM. So as the global pandemic kind of took off in 2020, Eden decided we need to ensure that we have quality data about COVID-19 in our data network so that we can study it as quickly as possible. So in early 2020, there was the COVID-19 rapid collaboration call, and very quickly we had over 80 applicants, and 25 data partners were awarded a grant. And these data partners were all across Europe. Specifically, there were 11 different countries. They primarily came from Spain, the UK, and Italy. But what was interesting is that the amount of diversity that these data partners brought. So we had everything from small ad hoc registries that were stood up at the beginning of the pandemic that tracked things like what medications were being given, what were conditions that were being associated with COVID-19, all the way up to large medical record systems that had hundreds of tables and managed lives for an entire country. So we had to figure out, how are we going to get these databases into the common data model? Now, specifically with the COVID-19 grant call, Eden assigned Eden COVID-19 Task Force to each data partner. And this was 2 to 3 people who had experience in producing CDMs and working with the OMOP vocabulary. And that's where I come into this. So I was on all 25 data partners task force. So I was involved in each data partner, hopefully bringing some consistency across to the process. And really what we were just doing is providing advice based on our experience on decisions they should make during design or just how to deal with certain issues. Currently, right now, 12 of the 25 data partners are completed, 5 are really, really close, and 8 are still working. And really, those 8 that are kind of coming in at the end, this had to do with things like such as data partners just getting access to their data sometimes took a long time. So, for example, if part of your data came from a governing body and you had to wait for that data to actually come in, it made it hard for us to really start the process. Some data partners just didn't really have the personnel to actually tackle the process until later in the year or even earlier this year. We even had a couple situations where the hospital system was just so inundated with COVID-19 that it was just all hands on deck. And so doing an ETL just really didn't take priority during that time. So I have the goal that we will, all data partners will be completed within the next month, and then the COVID-19 call will be completed. Eden's goal isn't just to generate a whole bunch of CDMs, it's to generate evidence. And so the grant process really gets the data from the databases from their source data all the way to a CDM. But we wanted to start helping bring data partners through the evidence generation process. And so we held our first ethon for our data partners that were completed at the time. And what we did is we provided them a real live COVID-19 study to run on their data. And then they brought that evidence to the ethon where Danny and Patrick actually reviewed the evidence with them. And so we were able to talk about what we were seeing and walk the data partners through how to think about it, not only through interpreting it for themselves, but also thinking about how they use that information for network research. And I definitely have to say, I had a very proud mama bear moment when everybody was participating and we weren't fighting with technical issues of using our CDMs. We were actually evaluating the evidence that we had generated from the CDMs, meaning that the work that we did allowed us to do scientific research. I was very proud of everybody. I just want to thank anybody who nominated me or voted for me. I really enjoyed participating in Eden. I feel like I've made a lot of friends through this process, and I'm really looking forward to meeting people in person at the European Symposium next year. So thank you.
Great, Erica. Thank you so much. Just looking at that last screenshot, we cannot confirm or deny whether Patrick has changed his shirt from the ethon to today. We're going to cross our fingers and hope he has. Okay, let's move over to our Titan honoree for community leadership. That is Muy Van Zandt.
Hi. Like everybody else, I don't like talking about myself too much either. And I don't have a slide deck like everybody else has. So I'm just going to wing this. Okay, I'm going to make this very informal. So my name is Muy Van Zandt. I'm the senior director here at IQVIA. I've been in the community for, I don't even remember how long. That's probably how long I've been around. And I remember when I first started, I knew nothing about the community. And I went to one of the hackathons at Georgia Tech. And I found it to be the most amazing thing in the world. And I vividly remember at the end of it, Patrick's like asking, hey, what do you think we can do better? And I raised my hand and go, I would love to do more of these. I would love to attend more of these because these are so fun. And I learned so much from it. And his answer back to me is, well, we can, but we need folks to organize it and we need folks to actually, run them. So I took that as, okay, that's my initiative and welcoming, from Patrick to say, I could be part of this community and I could take it and run with it myself. And I don't think I stopped running with that, without that. I would not have probably ran without that. And I think I'm still running. And a year and a half ago, more like 2 years ago, I started getting more involved in Asia Pacific. One, because of work, and two, Even though my last name is Van Zandt, I am Chinese. So I got very involved in a lot of the Asia Pacific stuff, and saw that we had a lot of potentials there and a lot of people who has an interest. But what was lacking was the coordination and bringing actually all the Asia Pacific teams together, as well as providing that information to connecting the global side with the Asia Pacific side, because a lot of the Asia Pacific folks, if you guys know us, we're kind of timid and we're shy. We don't like to brag. We don't like to really talk to a lot of people about what we do. And that really created a gap between the knowledge that was there. So what I started doing was trying to get to a lot of the different Asia Pacific groups and say, hey, what are we doing? What is happening over here? And how can we, as a group, move things forward? So last year, we actually did our first symposium. And after that symposium, we decided that to form what we call the steering committee group on the other side, and started planning. Started getting together and started figuring out, okay, we have to plan what we want to do in order to move, Asia Pacific forward. So hopefully I'm sharing the right screen. You can see here, we gathered 6 different chapters, and some of them you can see formed, 2 years ago. Some of them just formed last year. And with the pandemic, it was a lot harder to get everybody in person. But we started at the beginning of the year having targets and having goals put together and saying, this is what we want to accomplish. And when we first started, there's a lot of things everybody wanted to accomplish. And we said, look, we need you guys to focus. Again, thanks to, the global leaders. At the beginning, we started deciding to add in the OCRs and saying, okay, we have to focus, right? So every group decided to, yes, the bird is very proud. That's why it's chirping up there. We decided, to focus every group, every chapter focus on 3 things that they can do. And our main theme was around conversions. And trying to get more data available and the knowledge out there what Odyssey does in the APAC community. So you can see here, these are the 6, and we've actually accomplished quite a bit this year in the Asia Pacific world. We've gotten a lot more organizations into the community, coming to our community calls and actually converting that data. And we did our first ever Asia Pacific study using the legend methodologies, and that is right now going out for submission. And we hope to continue to do that, take that to the next level. Now, of the 6 chapters, 5 of them was part of the study. And that is phenomenal, right? And we do have bi-weekly community calls. And like Craig said, I want to put some emphasis on this. We do have our second Odyssey APAC Symposium this year. Our theme this year is more on collaboration. So that's what's going more of the theme for the symposium itself, more collaboration. So we're going to spend a lot more time during our networking session thinking about how we can collaborate further than where we are right now and taking Odyssey APAC to the next level next year. And like I said, we have Odyssey Asia Pacific community calls. You can see here, we have them every other week. We have a lot of different topics, but we always welcome more folks to speak, especially from the folks here, to come and speak to the Asia Pacific group so that we can also get more knowledge sharing between the 2 groups. So we would love it if you guys can come and have a topic you want to talk about, even the Titans. Come over, talk to us. You can record them beforehand, but be part of our community call as well. If you guys do have a topic, let me know. And if you're interested in the Asia Pacific Symposium, please do sign up. It is a 1-day event, most likely about 6 hours or so. So we won't take up too much of your sleep at night for most of you because it does start late your time. But it'll be, you'll have nice dreams afterwards about what happened during the symposium. Lastly, I want to say there's no way that I would have gotten this award in any way, shape, or form without the collaborative effort of the APAC leaders. So I want to thank all of the APAC leaders for all of their help pushing Odyssey APAC to the next level.
Great, Muy. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the work you're doing with the Asia Pacific community. Certainly look forward to talking more and promoting the APAC Symposium over the next month. Okay, our co-winners for community support are Faaizah Arshad and Ross Williams. So we will have Faaizah, if you want to start, take it away.
Thank you, Craig. Hi, everyone. My name is Faaizah Arshad. I am an undergraduate student at UCLA. And before I tell you about myself, I just want to sincerely thank my nominators for nominating me for the Community Support Award. It really means a lot that you recognized my contribution and appreciated it. But in actuality, I believe I've learned so much just by observing the efforts of your work and of everyone on this call today. So since I've joined Odyssey 1 year ago, I've jumped around a lot. I participated in the psychiatry working group, the patient level prediction working group, contributed, although small, to the SCILA study, joined UMAIS, and am now participating in the vaccine safety working group. I'll tell you a little bit about UMAIS. So UMAIS stands for Evaluating Use of Methods for Adverse Events Under Surveillance. And multiple studies have come out of this bigger project, but the one that I had the opportunity to lead is on the use of serial methods in vaccine surveillance. Instead of focusing on what this study was about, I'd like to briefly tell you why it's important to me. One is it's the first study I'm leading ever in my lifelong research experience. And I'm really excited to see it be submitted to a journal soon. And two, I got to hold a poster presentation and do a plenary talk about it at the Odyssey Symposium and meet so many of you who were interested in the work. And three, and probably the most important, is I have the honor to work with senior researchers who are really inspiring. Two things that I've learned are, one, that no matter how many questions I ask to gain clarity, the more questions I'll have. But I'm curious, and I think that every time I read a new paper related to serial methods or statistical techniques, I'm challenging myself in new ways. And the second, which resonates with me because I'm an aspiring physician, is that we often hope there's an easy fix in medicine or research, or at least it would be nice if there was. But instead, many steps have to be taken and studies have to be conducted to make a small change. And that requires the input of many people. So I believe it depends not only on robust science, but also just on a strong desire to learn from each other. And I think that's a really good transition into what excites me about leading the early stage researchers working group, which is that there are students and individuals that are junior in their careers who are eager to learn new skills, and simultaneously they love to share their knowledge. So I'm forming new perspectives and others are offering insights to each other. And I think that this diverse range of experiences and limitless curiosity really helps us come to better decisions in our own work. And finally, I just have to give a special mention to everyone here, especially Mark Seichard, for welcoming me in as an undergrad 1 year ago and seeing something in me that was deserving of joining Odyssey. I think I've really come a long way, and I'm really excited to see what more I can contribute. And my goals from here are just to continue leading the early stage researchers working group and to keep stepping out of my comfort zone to learn how to generate better evidence for medicine. So thank you.
Thank you, Faaizah. That was terrific. Faaizah, pretty sure the only undergraduate to ever give part of a plenary talk at an Odyssey Symposium. So amazing work, and tip of the cap to Mark Suchard for bringing her into the community, because that's going to benefit us for a long time. All right, her co-recipient is Ross Williams. Ross, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so I think, unlike everyone else here and going along with my Britishness, I actually really love to talk about myself, and I'm also never sarcastic, so one of those things is true. I actually think I'm going to be slightly different and talk about my journey within Odyssey. And for me, that actually can be narrated as a journey from study-a-thon to study-a-thon. So when Craig asked me to do this talk, I was thinking a bit about how I got started in the Odyssey community. And actually, my beginning in the Odyssey community was also my beginning of my scientific career, which I think is probably among the first generations of people to do that. And I think within about 6 months of starting, I was at a study-a-thon in Columbia in New York. And so this was a 2-day event. And when I think back to it, I don't really remember what the study was. I remember being very inspired by it. And the other thing I remember is saying almost nothing for the entire time. I think I maybe said one sentence. And then if we fast forward a year or a year and a half, I ended up at a study-a-thon in Oxford. And this was looking at comparisons between unicompartmental and total knee replacement. This was about a year into my career, and having been to an Odyssey symposium in between, and been joining some of the working groups. So my main job, for most people that don't know, is as part of the patient level prediction working group here. I gained a bit of confidence, and then by the end of the TKR, I actually got tasked with writing up one of the studies. And so this was a really nice way that I could look at myself and see the growth that you go from sitting quietly and observing and not feeling like you can contribute, to then being someone that has the responsibility to make sure a study gets finished off, which hopefully that will be published soon. We'll still waiting on that one. And then I think back, and then the next thing I think about is when I went to the next study-a-thon, and this would have been the Eden RA study-a-thon in Barcelona. And at this point, I was then tasked with driving the study forward itself. So during the study-a-thon, I was in charge of the patient-level prediction things. I gave sort of lectures on what patient-level prediction is, how you can build these models, what the way to do that is, and along with all of the co-workers there, we helped put together a software package, and then that has then been driven forward by another PhD student in our group, Cynthia Yang, and we now have a paper that's going to be under submission. So when I think back to this, what I think was that the chances that I was afforded by this community to sort of like learn and grow and evolve as a scientist, and I guess to use the terminology I hear a lot from the Americans, as a leader, I was thinking, well, what did this come about? And I noticed that it's mostly through these in-person meetings that you gain confidence, because then rather than seeing people like Patrick or Peter or Erica or Danny give these big presentations and you think, wow, these people are so impressive, you can sit and you can have a one-to-one conversation with them, and then you actually realize how much they value your input as well. And so over the last couple of years, I was thinking to myself, this is something that we're probably missing a little bit through these big online conversations, although I think some of the work that's been done, particularly the COVID study-a-thon, has been fantastic. I thought for people who were in the position I was in sort of 3 or 4 years ago, there's something that's a little bit missing. And that's where the idea of the early stage researchers group came about, which is, hey, we want to have this environment where, yeah, there aren't these sort of big names. There's not this almost intimidation factor. You have the ability to have these small chats and gain a little bit of confidence, and then hopefully that you can build and then contribute to the wider community. So that was sort of brief cliff notes of my journey through Odyssey. And I'll finish off by saying, early stage researchers group, please come and join us. We're very friendly. We don't bite. We'll be having a presentation on cohort building. And if you want to work within Odyssey, cohort building is something that you're going to have to learn. So that will be in our November meeting. So please come and join us then. Thanks a lot.
All right, Ross, thank you. And I think that's a really great message to end on, is that you could have, spent a lot of time this year quietly learning and, kind of figuring out the community as best you can. And next year, find something that you're passionate about, drive something forward, make an impact, and be in the same position next year. So really, everybody has the opportunity to make a great impact. And so, that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this, not only to celebrate people and learn what they've done, but look forward to next year. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the Titan Awards. Congratulations. I would ask a nice way to end it, if anybody could put your cameras on, unmute yourself, and maybe just give one last round of applause to the to our 8 Titan Award winners, because I think they are certainly deserving. So congratulations. Thank you for all the work that you have done. Let's keep it going. That's right. And thank you for sharing this, sharing your experiences and all the work that you've done. All right, that will close it for here. We'll get everything on the community calls page today, all the links, the recordings, and everything. Next week, remember the Legend talk. Look at all the work that Legend has done, the Legend team, and what's coming up. So looking forward to that. Otherwise, everyone have a great day, a great week, and we'll see you on Tuesday.